And now I'd like to introduce our guest speaker and our friend. Most of you by now have met Joe Tye, the author of the 12 Core Action Values, and we've worked with Joe, as I mentioned, a number of years. And Joe, please grace us with a few words. Thank you.
Thank you. Did you notice how he emphasized the word few? Grace us with a few words? Well, I want to congratulate all of you, but let me start by congratulating Frank and Jeannie and commenting on this Leadership Academy. It's really something for you to be very proud of, and I think it's a tremendous commentary on the wisdom of the leadership team here at PCRMC, because this is the kind of thing you usually see in a much larger facility. And for you guys to do this is really a commentary on your commitment to leadership, on your commitment to investing in people. Frank and Jeannie have become good friends. All of you have become good friends. Our certified values coach trainers, you guys are plowing new ground, and we very much appreciate it. Now, as I was thinking about the trauma that you all were going to go through today, and by the way, you all acquitted yourself extraordinarily well. But as I was thinking about that, I was reminded of somebody I met some years back. I was teaching a 3-day course for people who wanted to become speakers or more effective speakers. We had this course in the intimidating environs of the National Speakers Association headquarters in Arizona. So it sort of screamed out speaking. And in the class we had people who were teachers, we had a few professional speakers. It was a pretty high-profile group. But we had this one woman in our group who, shall I say, was not overly endowed with charisma. She was quiet, shy, a little bit frumpy and dowdy, and for 2.5 days, whenever she did speak, she tripped over her own words. And very much like today, the final exam was give a presentation. By the luck of the draw, she went last. And prior to her, we had professional speakers, people who had won teaching awards, people who gave very polished and fine speeches. And I watched her over there in the corner, and I kind of prayed for her that this would end quickly and mercifully. And she came up to the front of the room like this, and her knees shook a little bit. And then she stood up straight and she said, her name, let's call her Betty. And Betty said, I would like to tell you about Billy. She said, Billy is a special child, but not special in the sense that the dictionary would define special. He was a special child. And he had grown up being special, and he was used to being called special with all of the implications that word brought with it. And although he was used to it, he never liked it. And he always did feel like he was different. But there was one thing that did make him special. He could run. He loved to run. He loved the joy of running, and he loved the thrill of competing. And he got into the Special Olympics program. And he found something that he was good at. He found something that he really could be special at. And he ran and he ran. He trained with the discipline of a real Olympic athlete. And he made it to the Special Olympics. And he made it through round after round to the finals of the 100-yard dash. And he got up to the starting line, and his two key rivals, Eddie and Susie, were on either side of him. And the gun went off, and they went charging down the track, and they could hear everybody screaming from the stadium. And at 40 yards, he looked beside him, and there was Eddie right next to him. And he looked on this side, and there was Susie. And he ran a little bit harder. At 60 yards, he's a nose ahead. He looks over, and there's Eddie. And he looks over, and Susie's a little farther behind. And out of the corner of his eyes, he can see his parents up there cheering him on in the stadium. And he pours on the gas. And at 80 yards, he looks beside him, and there's Eddie, 3 noses back now. And he looks to the other side, and Susie's not there. And he looks back. Susie has fallen on the track, and she's crying. And Billy stops, walks back, reaches out a hand, picks her up, and arm in arm, they walk in last place across the finish line to the thundering standing ovation. Now that was the story, and as you can tell, there was not a dry eye in the room by the time she started to tell us what she didn't need to tell us, the obvious lessons in that story. But as with all great stories, there's a story wrapped inside a story. And the real story was the blossoming of Betty through this whole experience. Somebody who was not a polished, not a professional speaker, but somebody who reached deep inside her, found something, found a story, found a message, and you know what? Of all the people who left that room that day, she's probably the one who did the most with what she learned. And I think that's your challenge and your charge. You've been through a course now. You've gone through the terror of standing up in front of a room and telling your story. And your challenge now, Frank called this the end of the course, and it is, but it's really the beginning of what comes next. And some of you have read the book, The Florence Prescription. It defines the characteristics of a culture of ownership, and you see them on these banners up behind me. And there's a new book that I brought as my gift to you all, my graduation present to you all, called All Hands on Deck. And it talks about what are the key lessons for building a culture of ownership. It's a book that's written for leaders, and as Frank said, leadership is a life decision. This is not a book for managers, it's a book for leaders. And I hope you'll all read it, and I hope you'll bring those lessons and take that as your graduate course for the 12 core action values, and that you will transform PCRMC into a model of the kind of organization where you've got 100% spark plugs who are rowing in unison, trying to get that ship across the shore. You owe it to your patients. You owe it to your community. For those of you who are parents, you owe it to your kids, and you owe it to each other. So again, congratulations on a job well done. This is the first step in a long journey. I wish you Godspeed, good luck, great fortune, and tremendous outcomes. Thank you all very much.